it is time to review for the history test. History test would have been today if we hadn't had a snow day, but this test will need to be on Monday, because I cannot bump everything to Tuesday, because then we end up with too many tests on Tuesday, which was the problem we already had with too many tests on Friday, so I had to bump something to Tuesday already. So therefore, you'll have the language test and the science quiz on Tuesday, but your spelling test and your history test and your Bible verse quizzes and Bible truth quizzes will be on Monday, okay? I do have a few people that made 100 on pre-test, so that won't be a problem. But right now, let's review for the history test that will be on Monday.
North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin.
All right, remember Michigan is one that looks like a mitten grabbing a branch. That is in two parts, Michigan. I did have somebody that didn't get that one right on the quiz. All right, now we're gonna do the sit-down game doing this, and I'm not gonna go in order this time, so we're gonna start with Brantley.
Ohio. Michigan.
Nice and loud. This was Ohio, this was Michigan, that is what they said.
North Dakota.
Very good.
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
South Dakota.
South Dakota.
Iowa.
Iowa.
Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Missouri.
Missouri.
Kansas.
Kansas.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. So the only ones we haven't done are this one
Illinois.
and this one.
Indiana.
Illinois comes before Indiana. Some of people know them, but they get these two mixed up. But think about it in alphabetical order. I-L would come before I-N. So Illinois, Indiana, right? All right, now let's stand up again. Sit down if you answer the question correctly. Who wrote the first American dictionary?
Noah Webster.
Noah Webster. What was the name of the poem that John Greenleaf Whittier wrote?
Snowbound.
Snowbound. Very good. What's the name of the Mexican president who fought against the Texans? Santa Anna. Mexican president, Santa Anna. Who served in Congress as a representative of Tennessee? And that's all the government he ever did. Congress for Tennessee. Okay,
Davy Crockett.
Davy Crockett. Sam Houston was governor of Tennessee, governor of Texas, and he was also president of Texas before it actually became a state, when it was just became its own country. Right after they won the battle against Santa Anna, then they became their own country for a little while. And then later they became a state. So he was president of Texas, and then when it became a state, he was governor of Texas. But he was also governor of Tennessee. Right, that was Sam Houston. Because Davy Crockett could only be in government in Tennessee, because he came to Texas and he died in the battle of, we won't say it because somebody's gonna have that for a question in a moment. All right, the Texans fought against which country for their independence? What country were they fighting against?
Mexico.
Mexico, very good. An old Spanish fort, an old Spanish mission that was used as a fort by the Texans.
Alamo.
Alamo. The first American what took 20 years to write?
Dictionary.
Dictionary. First American dictionary, 20 years. The first American textbook for children became known as the Blue-backed Speller. John Greenleaf Whittier's poems were set to music and used as hymns. Very good. The Texas soldiers chose this person to be their leader to fight for freedom from Mexico. The one who didn't die. All right, let me hear it.
Sam Houston.
Sam Houston. It's not Huston. I don't know who keeps saying that. It's Houston. Like the name of the city is Houston. It's named after Houston, Texas. Named after Sam Houston. Louisa May Alcott's home was a stop on the what?
Underground Railroad.
Yep, Underground Railroad. Back up. Starting on this side this time. Snowbound was,
No. Well, you started with this side last time.
did I?
Yeah.
I started on that side with the map. And then I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, God, it's not time to go back to that side." You're right. Snowbound was written in memory of the author's family. Very good. What did Louisa May Alcott work as during the Civil War?
Nurse.
Nurse. By the way, it has to be nurse, cannot be doctor. Must be nurse. You guys understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
She worked as a nurse. A person, real or fictional, who is admired by the people of a particular place for his accomplishments is known as a folk hero. Very good. After gaining their independence, the Republic of what elected Sam Houston as their first president? Joey? Texas. Right. Think it through, guys. Who was fighting for their independence and what we've been studying lately? Texas. They were fighting for their independence from Mexico. So after gaining their independence, the only one you should be thinking of is Texas. Because remember, I told you after they gained their independence, they became their own country, the Republic of Texas. Then eventually they become one of the states in the United States. All right. Little Women was written by whom? Who wrote Little Women? Jane?
Noah Webster. Oh no!
Little Women wrote. Who wrote
Louisa
Little
May
Women?
Alcott.
Louisa May Alcott. Noah Webster with the dictionary and the Blueback Speller. 4 volumes of Christian poetry expressing love for God were written by whom? Who wrote 4 volumes of poetry expressing love for God? Grant? John Greenleaf Whittier, the same person who wrote the poem Snowbound. He was known for writing poetry. So if I'm saying something about poetry, think of the person who wrote a poem, Snowbound. He also wrote other poems, lots of poetry. Who wrote the Blueback Speller?
John Greenleaf.
No, who wrote the Blueback Speller? Dane?
Noah Webster.
Yes, the same person who wrote the American Dictionary. He wrote the first American spelling book, which later became known as the Blueback Speller. Noah Webster wrote a dictionary and a speller. And other textbooks for children that we don't talk about that had to do with things like that for school. The man who was governor of Tennessee and later Texas. Governor of Tennessee and later Texas.
Davy Crockett.
Nope.
Sam Houston.
Sam Houston. David Crockett died. Remember, he can't be governor of Texas because he died, right?
Yep.
He died in the Battle of the Alamo. So when I ask you who was governor of Tennessee and later Texas, it's got to be Sam Houston, because Davy Crockett died. When Little Women was written, it was written about the author's family. Name for me the 3 books in a one-room schoolhouse. 3. Name all 3. Very good. The Speller, the Primer, and the Bible. No, we're not going to stand up again. We only have one more question, and I want to know, why did Noah Webster's first book become known as the Blueback Speller?
Had a blue cover.
Because it had a blue cover. Okay?